So I am really excited. This is actually about 2 years overdue. I'm so excited to introduce all of you to Michou. And I met Michou 2 years ago when I started my own sobriety journey. And the welcoming, the warmth, the support, the love that you showed me 2 years ago and all the time since then has always stuck with me. And I'm so grateful you're here with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. It's awesome to still be in contact with you after I felt like kind of a wild introduction in the beginning. There's a lot of upheaval for both of us, I feel like, but also finding our way through the chaos, right? Like, which I thought was really kind of cool. And I always admired you had a lot of heart, and I always appreciated your passion and your drive and your vision. You always had a good vision. And even though you might not have been where you are now, you saw where you wanted to go. And so I'm not surprised that you're here, honestly. I'm not
Thank
surprised
you.
in this place now. So yeah, clearly like it was meant for you to do, what you're doing to help other people on similar paths. So
Oh,
much
thank you.
kudos to you. Yeah, for
I
sure.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I want to go back a few years to where, even before you and I met, to where your journey with plant medicine began. And if we go back to 2017, 2018 and pick up from there, I
Sure.
I love this story and I've been just captivated by it from the first time I heard it. So I'm excited to hear you share it here.
Well, I'm happy to have the opportunity. It's an honor to share my story with you and with whoever comes across it, whoever stumbles upon it. Um, I'm just now able to articulate what really happens, and so it feels important, to share and to be transparent. So thank you for holding space for me for
My
that.
pleasure. My
Yeah.
pleasure.
So yeah, in 2017, I was basically I had injured myself. I injured both my shoulders simultaneously in a slip and fall accident in the kitchen and was unable to work. And I was currently in Massachusetts and had recently relocated. The previous year, I'd sold everything that I'd owned to move out to Massachusetts and start my life over, basically. I thought it was important to come out and kind of have a clean slate. Was definitely drinking excessively. I was pretty much doing everything excessively, but I was in Massachusetts, so it felt really good. And I felt excited to have a fresh start. And when I injured myself, I was immediately brought back to where I had recently just dug myself out of, which was 2009. I injured my shoulder on the right side for the first time in California. So 2010, 11, and 12, I had 3 years of basically being out of work and having three surgeries back to back, living with my mother. I turned 40 years old at my mom's house in Grass Valley and was devastated. I thought my life was over. I just actually wanted to die, and I felt like that was the beginning of the true dark night of the soul for me, where I was underwater, and I could not get drunk enough to get away from myself, and I was literally drinking between, well, I don't know. I start with a 6 pack and usually go up to about 8 to 10 beers in a day. I was even to where I would drink. I wasn't drunk enough. I would go to the liquor store.
Mhm. I
Completely
this all resonates, Michelle.
like just before they close, gotta get there before they close, or let's get all the snacks that come along with that, and just destroying myself, just polluting myself. And I didn't care. It was a lifestyle at that point. It was, I don't know, I'm 53 now, so at that point I was um 40s, in my early 40s. I turned 40 years old in that time. So I spent 10 years in probably the darkest portion of my entire life, struggling with shoulder surgery after shoulder surgery. So for me to re-injure my shoulder again in 2017 was catastrophic. It broke me essentially because I was working for UMass Amherst. I was doing really well. I was coming back around. I was making money again and working, and I injured myself in such a way that both shoulders were just wrecked. I was told I needed surgery. I had MRIs done. My consequences were that I was actually living in a room. I had just left a relationship and was leaving, starting fresh. I had very little money. I was living in a room in Greenfield, Massachusetts, and my landlord gave me 5 months to find income or leave. I had no contacts here, I had no friends, so I didn't know anybody, and everyone I knew was out west in California. So I did what I could. I tried. I did a GoFundMe. I was asking for help publicly, in very humbled states to get some sort of financial support so I could stay. It was devastating to think about having to go back to California after selling my entire life and waiting for years to move out here. It literally broke me in ways that I was devastated, actually.
Mhm.
And so I couldn't find any way to come up with $500 a month for rent in 2018. So April, I managed to get enough money from people that were following me and friends and family to afford a trailer, a little 5x8 trailer, to hook up to my 2004 Chevy Trailblazer and drive across the country with 2 injured shoulders, unrepaired, with my dog, officially at that point homeless, out to California for hopes of a better good time. Well, what I'm jumping ahead of is that in January, I had come in contact with a person who was a cultivator of mushrooms. And they reintroduced me to this plant medicine from, the last time I did it was probably 1989 when I was 19 years old. So here comes, 2018, a reintroduction, 3.5 grams, January 3rd. And it was a wonderful time. It was fun because it connected me to my heart and to my sense of self on a deeper level than alcohol did. And so this person became a good friend, and they said, "Look, you have a connection. I'm happy to support whatever you'd like to do of these." And I was like, "Well, I had a great time. I like to do these once a month, 3.54 grams, see what happens because it feels good." So I started doing that because it was fun, because it connected me to my sense of self and just a bit more of like reality of life than just being a drunken mess, right? So I kept doing this, and October 23rd of 2018, I woke up one morning and just didn't feel like I needed to drink. And now I had been drinking quite a bit because I was now in California. I was living with my mother again. I was really uncomfortable with that. It made me feel really, I had a lot of feelings around that were not very healthy. My drinking was definitely like pretty high, but it wasn't in the same way. I was becoming aware of wanting other things, not just to get drunk. I was seeking other comforts. But that morning in October, I literally woke up and just didn't feel like I wanted to drink that day. I already knew when I woke up that I wasn't gonna drink that day. I didn't feel like there was a hole to fill. And I was like, wow, okay, so just go with what I felt. I started listening to myself and following my own intuition about what would be a better choice. So I wanted a nap. I wanted to have a nice lunch instead, not start drinking at 3 o'clock. Actually eat some food and take a nap maybe, or read or take a walk. Like I started to really, that day open my mind, open my everything. And so from that point on, for about a good solid year, um, I spent doing this work and basically unfortunately though, I should back up the story. There's so many things that happen. It's a crazy thing to retell, and I can't even believe it's from my actual life. But so 2018, I'm going through basically my entire homelessness problem with my mom, taking mushrooms once a month. October pulls alcohol away from me, so now I'm learning how to live without alcohol. Reinventing myself by myself. I didn't have any outreach. I didn't have any person to talk to about this. Mushrooms were giving me my own tools to navigate a new way of being. They kind of helped me to understand self-care in a broader, more, in the sense that actually felt really good and like necessary and achievable, right? Like possible. So I am now having a hard time with not being able to have surgery. There's no real income for me in California. So a friend offers for me to come out. A girl I was dating at the time, offered me
I love
come out.
how
Let's get
the
real.
more specific we get, the
She
more the
was,
pieces
I
fall
was
into
dating
place.
remotely, right? We were long
Yeah.
distance. And it was not even really dating. It was more like she was a girl that was a support system for me. Sometimes financially when she could, but mostly like kind of like in a romantic way. We were definitely intimate. We weren't really dating. We weren't official. I was the first person that she was ever with that was female, so it was really not like an official kind of a thing. But she was there. She was a support system, and she was like, "Look, I'm out here. in Indiana. Why don't you come out here? You could probably get surgery much faster. I have a guest room. You can stay for a couple months until you get better after your surgery, then you go back to Massachusetts. Lifesaver, right? So here comes January 2019. I am grateful, beyond grateful, still not interested in drinking, still taking mushrooms, leave California, on my way to Indiana, high hopes of surgery and all of that, right? All I want to do is get back to work because I need to make money. I don't want to be homeless, right? Mm-hmm. Still taking mushrooms, bring myself out to Indiana. Things happen quickly out there, really fast. I get in February, I get scheduled for surgery in June for my for my shoulder. I get set up with their system for food stamps, all that, and I keep taking mushrooms. Right, I'm taking 4 grams. Well, about May, May I had a spiritual awakening on about 3.5 grams of golden teachers. I know what it is now, but at the time, I never heard of such a thing. I wasn't spiritual on that level. I wasn't somebody that you would call woo woo or any of that kind of stuff. Like I wasn't really in that whole scene. That wasn't part of who I was. And I probably had once or twice heard about that terminology. It didn't really resonate with me though at the time as it was happening, because literally what had happened was that I was watching on a projector on the wall of a room animated fractals while I'd listened to a playlist of mine that I had made. And all of a sudden, on the ceiling or in the air in between, it was kind of like if I was looking at the wall where all the like the animation and the in the picture was, there was that image. This image was up from that, and it was 4 white entities essentially. And through the music, it wasn't even a sound, it was a feeling, it was an awareness of them essentially reminding me and sharing the knowledge, the remembrance to me that I had forgotten, I guess, for I don't know how long, but that I knew the way to I don't know, to self, to consciousness, to awareness, to true thought, to true knowing. And it was almost like there was a contract being made in that time that there was nothing signed or there was nothing verbally said, but I essentially agreed to walk this path. I agreed to help other people this way. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, all the most unbelievable feelings of the things that were worrying me, the doubt, the fear of homelessness, the fear of what's going to happen, I don't have a plan, that all got taken away in that moment of agreeing to show up this way, to walk this path, to be a person of mushrooms, right? To be the holder of that medicine. All of fear of what would happen to me in my life from that point on, I just started laughing. I laughed for hours because it was gone. Like I didn't fear anything. And when I finally came out, all I could say was, I know the way. I know the way. Huh, what does that even mean? For months, I spoke that and felt this like disconnection of what does that truly mean? Because at the time, like when you're shown and reminded of what you already know, and you don't realize that from this life, to bridge that gap, it's taken me 2 years, 3 years. And in that time period, I have had visions of from 2019, from that spiritual awakening in May until probably, I don't know, 2020, early 2021, I've had visions of on other large, doses of mushrooms, of myself working with people, of speaking in auditoriums full of people about this work, of basically all the things that I've been doing this last 3 years have all come true out of visions that I've seen in mushroom space. So now 2019 comes, I'm out, spiritual awakening has happened. I'm blown away. It basically pulled me out of my identity. It pulled me out of my belief or my awareness of who I was at that time, of my identity, of how I saw myself. At that time, I was very interested in my outward appearance, my muscles, my tattoos, how I was showing up, physically in the world more so than from an inner self kind of place, right? So I really had a hard time. I wasn't really in a place where I could really understand like what that all meant. It made it hard to really connect myself from my physical standpoint because I didn't see myself or feel myself the way I had been. Well, dealing with that, okay, I'm trying to work through getting ready for shoulder surgery, putting that on the shelf, trying to deal with that. Excited, full of excitement. Well, here comes my shoulder surgery. It was a big deal. It was a lot of extra things I didn't realize that they were going to have to do. A lot of complications as far as like having, there was more damage that they thought. I didn't have any complications myself, but the surgery was long and brutal. And afterwards, it was, there was nothing that the pain meds I was on could do for the pain. It was really difficult for me. The person that I was with, who was supporting me and helping me, is also a trauma survivor, and my struggling triggered her PTSD,
Mm.
and she ended up leaving me in her place, alone, and telling me she was going for a drive. Basically, I was 5 days after the surgery. I had my arm in a sling. I was completely reliant upon her. I was taking 10 milligrams of oxy for the pain every 4 hours. I was unable to care for myself, and she left me. She essentially abandoned me in her house, um, with no community, um, for 4 days and 4 nights.
I can't like to wrap my brain around that. When
Yeah,
when we have shoulder surgery, there are a lot of things. I haven't had shoulder surgery, but I'm envisioning pulling up or down your pants.
you can't do
Help
your
with
arm
that.
sling. You can't do
You can't
anything.
you can't
You
I
can't
mean,
use your arm. Yeah,
you are completely, even if it's not your dominant hand, we use that upper body
yeah.
strength
You use both
to
hands.
sit up, to eat, to go to the bathroom, like everything essential need that you have needs to be supported by someone, especially after 5
Yeah,
days
yeah,
out of surgery.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So that happened,
yeah.
and realizing I have to essentially, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. I'm trying to reach out to her. She's not responding to me after about 2 days. On the fourth day, I get a message from her saying that I'm no longer welcome on the premises and I'm to vacate immediately. And I panicked and I was like, okay, well, I have to pack my room. I had a whole room full of stuff, and I packed it with as best as I could with one hand in a sling and this hand. Um, I drove myself with the help of people that I had been following me from Facebook and Instagram and so forth. People had offered me places to stay in short, small increments in between where I was in Indiana back to Massachusetts. It took me 6 days to do like a 2 day drive. I had to stop my opioids immediately because I was afraid to drive. So I relied solely on just cannabis at that point. I wasn't taking any psychedelics at that moment because I was healing from surgery. But the medicine was basically guiding me through this process of figuring out how to get from A to B. Now I get back to Massachusetts. It's June 2017 or June 2019, and I'm effectively homeless. And I have my Trailblazer full of my stuff. I had to put it into a friend's garage. I had to essentially, I was allowed to stay in their house for 3 nights out of the week. They had a son that would go stay with their mother part time. So on the nights that he was at mom's house, I could come and stay in their house. At the house. On the nights that he was home, I was staying out of my back of my Trailblazer with my Chihuahua and with my arm in a sling, and um, still not drinking, but I started having
Amazing.
addiction. But here's where it gets interesting.
Mhm.
You don't know about this part. So we haven't talked for 2 years. So in my mind, I'm afraid though, because this was a fluke. I didn't ask for this. I didn't go seeking any of this. This was given to me. Everything, all of it. A spiritual awakening, people search for that shit. Enlightenment, give me the enlightenment. You don't want the enlightenment, trust me. Trust me, I'm
Careful what you ask for.
ignorant bliss. I remember that. I do
Yeah.
remember knowing all the things is a lot. So, but
Uh-huh.
not seeking what you're looking for causes a set of problems that you're now faced with. How did it happen? I didn't control it. I need control in the situation. I don't feel safe with the fact that maybe mushrooms took alcohol from me, maybe they didn't, but let's find out. The person that I am, the scientist that I am, is like, we're going to find out. Let's recreate this. I want to know for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to back to drinking. I'm going to force myself. It took me a week. I would drink and I would get sick. I would throw up taking a sip. It was like the mushrooms rewired my DNA for alcohol. Beer was like, I had to push through the nausea for like a week. And finally it was like, okay, I can drink a little bit. After about a month, I was drinking on a regular basis again. I was like a 6-pack a day. It was making me really sad though, because I didn't want to go back to that. I loved how I was before, but I didn't want to not know. I needed to know for sure. So I started this experiment. And by the time it got to about September, October, I was like, okay, now I'm in it again. I could feel my body wanting it again. And I was like, oh, fuck, I don't want to be this person. But there was a part of me that knew in the back of my mind, very far, that I was going to be okay, to trust, keep going, do the experiment. So come around November, I started taking larger doses of mushrooms, smaller together, because I didn't want to wait 7 months for this to make me stop drinking again. I wanted to do it now. So here comes an eighth every 2 weeks, which is nuts. Don't advise. Really, it's a lot. I did about an ounce of mushrooms in about 2.5 months, but stopped my drinking like that. So now I'm like, okay, twice now I've done this. First was a fluke. The second time was on purpose. So now this is the beginning of 2020. I manifested. I was starting to manifest and like starting to have more visions and more awareness because I was doing so many psychedelics. I had more visions, more ego death experiences, kind of big ones in 2020, where I had found a place to stay in a basement of this woman's house. She was a Quaker, and I had the awareness one night to wake up in the middle of the night going to Craigslist. There was an ad there that I knew to reach out to and go to this woman. Was like, come to my house. You can see I have space in the basement. It's unfinished. Maybe you want it. Come have a look. It's December 30th. Or no, December 27th, I think it was, right before New Year's. So I went and checked it out. Super sketchy down there, super dank. It was gnarly. I was like, fuck, I got nothing else. I have to do this.
What are you gonna
She's
do?
Like, $50 for a month. You can stay down there, you and your dog. And I was like, fucking sold. Thank you.
Was there heat?
No, fuck no. It's an unfinished basement.
Shit.
Oh, it's fucking winter in New England, sister.
Oh my God.
So here we go. So I'm in this basement and I'm like, fuck it. I just leveled up. I got a place. So right off the bat, I'm trying, and it was a bad deal because her stuff was down there. I had to literally carve out a space. I was staying at first on a twin mattress on the floor with my dog. Like, and I'm a broad-shouldered girl. Like I'm a big girl. I'm like this on the mattress. My dog is like on top of me. He's like 10, he's like this big. And so we're like this. People are trying to send me stuff. They're sending me electric blankets, space heaters, rugs. My space is not hospitable, but it's about to be. I keep having more visions about the business card that I have. This business card right here. Mm-hmm. I created this in January.
Oh, I love it. I love
right?
It looks almost like a mandala.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I created that. I had the idea of that this is work that I need to start doing, and I'm online posting about my thoughts that are coming through, speaking to topics. Really still struggling with what happened to me. I don't have anyone to do integration with because there isn't that in place yet. So I'm listening to Alan Watts and Ram Dass, and I'm listening to them, and I'm hearing myself in how they speak, and that's freaking me out because I'm okay. I'm calling people from the internet to me. They're messaging me going, you had a spiritual awakening. You need to read this book. Go listen to this person. Go listen to this person. Have you heard of this person? Go read their stuff. I'm pulling these people to me that I don't even know from around the world to teach me what happened to me. Mm-hmm. Don't ask me how I did that, but that was helpful. So now I'm starting to see that what happened to me is a huge thing. And I'm looking at the future of this medicine, of a lot of people coming to do this work. Now, I didn't predict a pandemic necessarily, but I did predict a lot of people coming to do this type of work with this medicine. Psychedelics, integration, talking about what happened. people seeking to do this work. This is how you access yourself. All this stuff is coming through my mind, and I'm realizing all this. Also, while now I'm not drinking again, right? Well, then I quit. I was vaping at the time, so I quit vaping cold turkey, walked away from that. Mushrooms are like, you don't even need that. Just walk away. Walked away from that. Walked away from cannabis for a while because I wanted to see what would happen with that. So I spent all of 2020 pretty much stone cold sober with nothing, right? Even sugar. I had a moment, several months of quitting sugar on the same time I quit nicotine, and man, it was brutal. That's when the pandemic was beginning, and I'm in this basement with no friends in Massachusetts with these strangers that I barely know. There's 4 other people in the house. The pandemic kicks in. I'm like, okay, let's go, bring it. Shit, I don't know. I got nothing. I'm down here, just chilling, putting pieces together, trying to acquire things, trying to build my life. I manifested a bed in Box Springs from a place up in Brattleboro in February. Just started thinking about, oh, go back onto Craigslist or something there for you. This woman had it was almost like months old Box Springs bed, full size now, with flannel sheets, blankets for my dog. It was awesome. Went up there for free, picked it up. Now I'm back. I'm back to my space, and it's starting to build up to a really nice, cozy spot. I'm doing a lot of work with my diet and exercising, and I'm trying to like rebuild myself. I'm having a lot of social anxiety. It was hard for me. I had to really everywhere I went have these with music, special kind of music in my ears at all times, at least one, no matter what. If I was talking to someone, it didn't matter. If I didn't, I would have a really difficult time with not feeling like I was going to come out of my fucking skin. I think the spiritual awakening and the stuff that came through with the ego death and the identity shattering, the belief system shattering, and the pandemic, like everything combined, it was a lot to digest. And at that time, I was actually using microdoses of LSD because I didn't want to do a big dose of mushrooms. I didn't need to do that at that time, but I was reading at the time about how LSD was a little bit of a different interaction. So I was exploring, I started making microdosing tinctures of LSD for myself. And they were phenomenal. It was like, oh my God, it was like what coffee would love to be. It's what coffee would love to be on its wildest dreams, basically.
Yeah.
But the smallest amount, it's sub-perceptual. You're not really seeing anything at all. But your body, it's an analgesic, so there's no pain. And there is basically, it's energy, it's flow state, it's you're enhanced, you're a superhuman. It's amazing. So I started doing that on occasion. It was pretty much like once or twice a week for a couple months. Friends started noticing that, so I started helping them to establish their own like tinctures, teaching people how to do that. I started realizing that this is 2020. I need to make a website. I need to have a business. This is a business. This is I have something to teach other people. The way people are struggling with themselves is from a lack of connection of self. It's a lack of authenticity, lack of awareness of who they are, lack of purpose, lack of all of these things. And mushrooms, specifically in my experience, connects you directly to that. So basically what mushrooms were doing now, as I'm in a basement in Greenfield during a pandemic, is they're teaching me what I need to know, what's happening, what's about to unfold. Get on top of these things. You need to know about this. What's coming for you is a big deal. So I'm teaching myself now how to grow them because I had the awareness. I need to know how to make this medicine. I need to do this. This is my purpose. So over this time now, I'm reading every book I can get my hands on. I'm in Reddit. I'm looking at pictures. I am filling my mind with information of mushroom cultivation. I'm taking courses on life coaching, cognitive behavioral therapy, neurolinguistic programming. I'm doing these things because I feel that I need to. I have this piece that dropped into my lap of spiritual awakening and enlightenment, but now I need the finer mechanisms of how the brain works. So let's go backwards.
Yeah, no. And that's important because there is truly a link. I mean, I've studied all of this too, like Gabor Mate's work.
Brilliant stuff right there.
Huge
Brilliant. Yeah.
influence
Yeah.
on my life.
Mm-hmm.
And his description of when we go through addiction or trauma or both,
Yeah.
we disconnect from our inner selves. We disconnect from the spiritual side of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I know for me, the whole first year I was sober, I was using a 12-step program. And because a lot of the language was God or higher power, I was
Yeah.
real resistant
Yeah.
until I started on my own spiritual journey, went on a retreat in Sedona, like opened myself up to
Yeah.
like what the universe has to offer, what Mother
Right.
Nature has to offer, entities other than God or higher power, which frankly I was still scared of because of my trauma in the church.
Yeah.
So once I started opening up to what the universe has to offer, what my higher self has to say, what my inner voice, how I'm talking to myself, my recovery went from like 15 to 90. Like, I just
Totally.
felt like the happiness I needed, the self love I needed, and
Right here.
want, desire all started
Here.
to come to me when I opened up myself to spirituality.
Yeah. Yeah.
How that's kind of like what how you were describing, like when I started listening to these signs and paying attention and getting to know my inner self, everything became abundant.
Yeah. 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 Well, on an even higher note, it's when you take this substance, what's actually happening on a scientific level is that it's expanding your consciousness. It's basically connecting the portions of your brain that normally function separately. They're connected together so that your spatial awareness, your conscious awareness is now vast. And so, what I was able to figure out, what mushrooms essentially showed me, is that I have the ability to help people to achieve these states of higher consciousness with this medicine because of the work that I've done on myself and because of the way that they taught me how to listen and how to go into this state, what to essentially how to show up for that type of that type of exploration, I should say.
Yeah, yeah.
It is I now have, so fast forwarding now to today, I have 70, I'm up to now 78 clients that I'm working with around the world. um, a lot of them are here in New England. I work with people in a variety of ways of microdosing education, macro and mesodose journey sitting. Um, Basically, people, I have clients that are focusing specifically on consciousness expansion. They want to have their, these are people that are pastors. These are people that speak to other people, that help large groups of people. Um, the awareness shift of how we are in our own selves is huge. And so teaching other people to access these states of mind is the work that I'm doing. And yes, I also teach people how to cultivate mushroom medicine as well. And yes, I also do tons of integration work for people because what comes through is access to your areas of growth. All the things that happened to us in our past, in our lives currently, when we go into those things that are hard for us, those are teaching us and evolving us. When we understand why it's difficult, that understanding is a level up of everything: confidence, knowledge, security, freedom. Like, there's so many things attached to that. So these pieces of awareness come together to really bring yourself to fullness, to full and actual potential. So
Yeah.
yeah. So this is the work I'm doing now, and people, my life is exploding, literally exploding. So I actually just resigned from my day job today. I sent them
Yeah.
a
Love it.
yeah, my
Yes.
wife actually wrote it for me because she's a middle school special ed teacher, and she's a wonderful writer. And I was like, babe, would you help me craft the most beautiful, grateful? Because I'm like I'm trying to get all my platforms streamlined. I'm updating my website. I'm getting ready for more podcasts. I'm trying to like really hustle. I'm also on day 12 of keto, so I'm like, my brain is like kind of, and I'm feeling great. Like, I went to the gym. I'm going to the gym at like 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning for a good solid hour or so, and I come home and I start my business. Basically, I talk to clients, work on my back end stuff. I mean, it's a lot. It's a fucking crazy thing, but I am so grateful for everything, every twist and turn. I can't believe the whole thing is it's like a storybook, Hollywood movie. I don't know what. It's crazy, but I do believe that when you're allowing yourself to connect to what's inside of yourself, your own intuition is guiding you all the time. And when you're feeding yourself other things, I'm learning right now. So psychedelically, I'm aware that sugar has been my number one addiction. Sugar, right, has guided me. So what I am, I think a continuation of my alcohol experimentation. So second time was great. I went back into it again this last year. And what was different was that I'm able now to understand the reasons behind why I drank to that level of excess. But I'm also able to now realize that sugar was the driving force behind my really wanting to in the first place. So what I was able to do these last few years is go back into my addiction each time. All this work with mushrooms, I don't even take mushrooms anymore. I don't need to. I'm just this way now. This is me. I don't need to take any big doses of anything. In fact, my last psychedelics were maybe 6 months ago. I don't even remember. I don't need it. Doesn't affect me in the way that I was doing it before. I have what I need, right? So going back into alcohol addiction looked like drinking and wanting to drink at night, but knowing that, you don't want to do that. That sucks. But why do I want it? What's causing that? So then letting myself have a few months in that state, taking out sugar, taking out all the sugary causing things, the drive is gone without the mushrooms now. So now I've had the full roundabout understanding of, okay, so in this world, this is how we're supposed to be with addiction. I feel this is the future of addiction, is to understand it, not just not do it by sheer willpower or other things, but to understand the addiction from a level. Some people can do this, maybe not for everybody, but for most, if you're able to get a hold of who you are and master yourself in a way that is of agency and is of health, then I truly feel that understanding yourself in these ways is so powerful. Now I get why. And now, yeah, it's weird. I have the capacity to, if I want to have a lower vibration experience, I can have alcohol. Sure. Then I'm going to realize after 2 or 3 drinks, that feels kind of crappy. It was fun. And then I look forward to the next day of being back to myself again. So that's where I'm at with alcohol now. It's there if I want it. It's a medicine. It's fun on a couple, 2 or 3, maybe over 3 is gross, but I don't really want to be in that space. So I was able to, by my own tinkering with mushrooms, with not really LSD for addiction, maybe a little bit, but mostly mushrooms. Mushrooms gave me the insight into why I drink. Getting rid of sugar after all the psychedelic work has given me now the deeper awareness into sugar as being a driving point to my eating in horrible ways, what I'm eating in horrible ways, the addiction of alcohol, wanting to drink to excess, because even just the knowledge that I used to drink like that, I really feel that sugar has been driving that my entire life. I've never stopped sugar, only one time, but I wasn't drinking in that time. So my research, my work is, I'm actually in the process of writing books about all of this stuff. But if I could just get time for my clients, I'll be able to do that. I'm having to hire somebody who can basically sit and listen to my story, and they can do the transcribing and all of that. But all this is nuts. It's unreal, but it's real.
It
And
is real. And
fucking
also,
crazy.
Misha, you've paid your dues too. I mean, from the day I first met you,
Yeah, I paid some dues.
your giving spirit and your I was going to say willingness, but it's actually a passion of yours to make people feel seen and included and
Dude.
understood,
Yeah,
and not just in the gay community. I mean, everyone who
yeah.
you touch, either with your words or your work or your story, feels like they belong. And that is
Because they do.
They do, and you're genuine. You're genuine. And I wrote a note down. I want to ask if someone is struggling with, I mean, my clients, everything from porn to alcohol to some cannabis even.
Yeah.
What language would I use to say to someone, this is something to be considered? And back to like the premise of last call, this podcast is to take away the stigma and the shame. So right now, especially in like old school recovery community, the stigma or shame would say, the people who are judging, I'll make that clear, would say you're trading one addiction for another. What would you say to that? And what would you say is language to use to either a client or a friend who's newly sober and looking for solutions?
So trading one addiction for another in what context? Like who is doing
Like
that?
if someone from the 12-step world
Mm.
were to listen to this podcast, they likely would say something to the effect of, she just traded one addiction for another.
No, I didn't, because I'm not addicted to anything now. I'm addicted to
I
nothing.
love that. I
I
love
have
that
no
because 10 minutes ago you said, I haven't even done it in 6 months. It's not,
I have
that's what I
don't need
wanted.
it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. And so what happened to me over this last 5 years, and literally it's been 5 years. Well, let me close this blind here. In
Yeah.
the last 5 years, I've gone from kind of a full disaster, if you will, with love. I was a lovable disaster, but I was a full disaster in multiple ways: nicotine, alcohol, cannabis, food, sugar, sex, all the things, everything I could get my hands on that would make me feel better. I'm doing it to extent, to capacity. In this 5 year time, I have taken mushrooms in a way that basically have shown me how to work with addictions and then also how to let them go. So I've been able to do the letting go work on a deeper level, and having gone back into those addictions with the help of the medicine being on board from all these past uses, I understand why I drank like that. And I also now feel so much better in myself. I don't need to go to that space to feel good anymore. This is home now.
It's in
Not,
you.
right? So I don't chase anything now. I am free of my addictions, even sugar, because now I mean, when I was first taken from alcohol by mushrooms in 2018, my body flipped the fuck out because I drank so much beer every day that my body was like, where's the sugar?
That's
Because
right.
you just took gallons of beer away from me. So now I'm like, holy, I'm looking at cookies, I'm looking at cake. I never had a sweet tooth before. So I started eating that crap. So in the last couple of years, I actually developed a sugar addiction
Yeah.
because I wasn't drinking a ton of beer anymore, right? So I went from alcohol addiction, now I'm in a sugar addiction, now I'm not in any addiction, and I'm not even in, I'm in no addiction now. When something starts to pull at me, I'm like, what pulls at me? Nothing pulls at me now. Nothing asks me. What pulls me now is things like water, sleep, time with my dog or my wife. These are my, not even addictions. These are my calls to what's important right now. But I don't have those anymore. So no, I did not trade one thing for another. I used a tool, right? An earth medicine to go into myself to discover and understand why I needed to run away from myself. What was so horrible and shameful that I had to drown in alcohol or in other comforts and other things that were false soothing things, right? So what mushrooms did for me was they gave me access to myself and let me see for myself who, what, how, why I am the way I am.
I feel like that is the most overlooked component in recovery. I was just talking to another coach on Saturday about this. I feel like we put so much emphasis on managing cravings, motivation to stay sober, and that's important. But truth be told,
Yeah.
that's about 10, maybe 20% of the equation. True recovery is accepting yourself, accepting
A
what
lot.
happened. Yeah,
Such
forgiving what
forgiving
happened to you,
everyone. Yeah.
finding out, like, to make it succinct, I would say the biggest piece to healing and recovery, or one or the other, is finding out how you landed there in the first place and healing that. And for you and I, as leaders and coaches, to reach people before they form a massive addiction,
Yeah. Yeah.
before they drink or use so much that their marriage ends, or that they feel suicidal. Like, my goal is to get my hands underneath people before they get there. I mean, I want to help them after too, but I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like the real need in the world we live in now is to support people before they land there.
And that comes from having a higher consciousness. So people are struggling because they don't know who they are. They don't know what they're doing here. They don't know anything about that, and they don't have the tools to navigate what happened to them when they were young and not having their needs met, or being raised by parents that were bleeding their traumas all over their kids from unresolved whatever. So it's a generational trauma being passed down. People are suffering and struggling because they don't have any awareness of who they are and how to heal themselves, how to soothe the hurts of now and ago. And so they're masking, they're running outside. No one taught us how to navigate the inner space, so we run to the outer space for comfort. This is the beginning of the problem. So when you start to expand consciousness, you create awareness of self that now seeks comfort from within, because it knows, your awareness knows, your best soothing is from yourself, not from anything else on this earth. Nothing else can soothe you the way that you can. So you start with that, and no one points us in that direction. Mushrooms wake us up and remind us all we need is right here. The whole time, all we needed was ourselves to show up for our fucking selves. I can't tell you how many times I'm at the gym now. I'm doing keto now. I'm like, geez, but I don't. There's a moment. It's almost like a split second that happens where I start to go down the path of regret, and I'm like, no, because you know why? I would never be able to do anything that I'm doing right now to help all these people had I not done exactly what I did all those years. I'm a master of being a wreck and never showing up for myself until I'm not. Until now, I'm the master of showing up. So this is where I truly feel like in every cell of my existence that if people could embrace the idea of expanding their consciousness to becoming more aware of themselves and what is missing, their lives would pivot on a fucking dime. Bing!
Yep.
Like me, like myself. And in that time, so I mean, I don't really get too much in the law of attraction stuff, but even though my entire life is based upon it, I don't have time to even get into all the, I mean, um, a lot to be said about when you raise your vibration, what comes to you that's already meant for you, right? There's a ton to be said about that. There's people talking about that all over the place, but really it's actually true. So when you start doing this work, when you start coming from a place of positivity and excitement and encouragement and passion, you're like a magnet for amazingness that just comes. I mean, look at your life, look at my life. So people's awareness is there. It's basically that's what's hinging on their make or break, right? If they're struggling, they're usually struggling because they're afraid to face what is hurting them. They're afraid to put to bed or own or forgive or apologize to themselves or whatever. They can't do those. Those are the hard things. So it becomes virtually the idea of working through these things is almost impossible because you can't imagine possibly forgiving these horrible atrocities that you did or that you were directly responsible for, right? So
Or that happened to you.
What happened to you? Sure. I was abandoned. Fucking A. Well, now I'm a big loser because I got abandoned 4 days after surgery or 5 days after surgery, not becoming the identity of um, the trauma that happens to you, not becoming um, identified with what is hard or what's painful or what's a deficit for yourself. These are the areas of evolution, of expansion that are on the menu today, that are on the board, that are the areas of opportunity that are truly going to help people, I feel. So your questions all comes back to that. It's self-awareness, it's self-mastery, it's self-realization, you know?
Before I let you go, in the spirit of
Oh, I'm not going yet. I have to go. What time
I
is
was
it?
looking at the time. I'm like, I don't want to keep her too long.
Keep me,
Um,
keep me. I don't know. I'm happy to answer more questions for you.
okay. This came up when I was studying, actually back when I was in school, studying psychology. I was learning about psychedelics, and one of the things that kind of stuck with me, and I'm just curious if this is the same with mushrooms, is if you are schizophrenic or have a handful of different mental diagnoses, you should probably not experiment. What can you share about that?
Sure. So right now, a lot is actually being done in the medical fields, like Johns Hopkins and probably places overseas in Oxford and so forth that are doing studies around this. What they're actually coming up with is the opposite of what was being said, in that that's very, don't ever use psychedelics when you're, if you have schizophrenia, if you have psychosis or any type of those borderline personalities and those kind of things. What they're showing now, within the right container, with the right trained people in the right setting, that is a potential for huge breakthroughs, actually, for you to actually uncover truth into the hows and whys of those behaviors. um, I have not personally worked with people diagnosed as that. I personally don't feel comfortable, and I personally will refuse to work with people who have a diagnosis of an actual medical diagnosis of those. I am not qualified, even though I probably am pretty qualified to sit with them. If I could sit with them in a medical institution, cool, I will do that. Maybe the future looks like that for me. But right now, today, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And those are the only, right now, those are the only people that I don't sit with right now. Are people of that diagnosis. I do have clients that are bipolar, showing really good results with varying meso, micro, macro, all the different ranges show very good promise for them. I am working with clients that have histories of SSRIs and currently taking SSRIs with psychedelic effects in bigger doses. So there's a lot of stuff that is, there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people are taking courses without people who have actually done this work physically, personally. So I'm really curious to kind of see what happens in these next few years, what kind of pans out for the help that's being, people are flocking to do courses on psychedelic integration and psychedelic guidance and all of that. And I have concern for the clients coming forth, sitting with these people who don't have any personal experience.
I share that with you on so many levels. I'm so glad that you said that.
Oh,
I
it's
just
huge, that every
had
day.
a conversation with, it was actually kind of a heated conversation with an addiction counselor yesterday or Monday. And he had made a comment that caught me off guard, but it was to the extent of, it's really not beneficial for people who have had addiction to be counseling people in
Oh,
addiction.
come on.
And I was like,
Those are the people to do that.
right. And I really wrestled with the
What
word
the fuck?
besides that is what I wanted to say.
I'm
So
shocked.
he was coming from a place of, what if you relapse? Or what if you, you know, in any case, he was doubting my ability to lead my clients. So I ended up making a video about all of the reasons. It's imperative that if you are healing trauma, sit with someone. And by sit with someone, I mean in the work you do, in the work I do, in a therapist's office, sit with someone that has survived trauma. If you're going through a divorce, sit with someone, a therapist or otherwise, who's been through that. And for you and I, sit with someone who's
Who's
been
an alcoholic.
through addiction and who's lived
Yeah.
a life completely like cut off from their spirituality, because they know how to guide you there.
I'll tell you something about that. The relapse, the whole like you know, all that relapse talk. If you have a relapse, you know what's going to happen? I put myself back into relapse, and you know what I was doing? I kept helping people because I can still show up. I wasn't ever so drunk that I'm not coming to my calls drunk, but there were nights that I would work my work during the day, and I'd come home and I'd have, I can't drink beer ever again, but cider or some kind of nice mead. I can enjoy a nice mead now. I can't drink beer ever again. It's ruined. I spent 35 years ruining that entire substance for me. But what I did learn is that just because I come home from my whatever, maybe I guided a 10-hour journey, I wanted to have a couple of glasses of mead. I'm not going to shame myself for that. For some people, that's a relapse. Okay, well, guess what? The next morning, I've got calls. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to take those calls. Their trauma, their addiction is theirs. My journey's mine. I'm going to keep showing up until I'm not. Maybe I'm not drinking very much at all. Maybe now I have a relationship with alcohol that is respectful and I don't abuse it anymore, because that's also an outcome that no one talks about that is acceptable in any lifetime, in any life. So my life is amazing because of the work that I did, forcing myself back into alcohol drinking, using mushrooms, using the tools that are at my disposal to understand and pull myself into a higher place. So that person clearly has a lot of work to do, and you trigger them, and that's good. And congratulations.
I love that you said that.
That's a yes, I'm going to
Some of
say
my
that.
content is a little bit controversial,
I
and
think,
it's
I think it's
for a
beautiful.
reason, because I want people to be aware. I want
Out of the
people
box.
to
Out of the
talk
box.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'm not trying to like clickbait or anything. I'm just trying to have a space, whether it's on TikTok or social media or the podcast, where
Everything.
nothing is off the table. Nothing.
Real
And
life scenarios. These are real. It's real life here.
yeah,
People fail and they get up, they dust off, and they keep fucking going. That's life. And there's no shame in life. There's no shame in trying, failing, trying again. This is how we grow. This is how we learn. We
right.
show up. If it doesn't work out, there's no shame. You give yourself love, understanding. Try better tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day for trying again.
I love
No,
that.
knowing, and because most people who have been sober and have a relapse know what it feels like to go to that place, to be in that sober place. Once your neural pathways know that path, you can go back there again should you choose to do that path again. If there's lessons you need to learn in the drunken state, then maybe there's lessons for you there. Maybe you're not ready to leave that space yet. There's no judgment is the first, number one.
Number one. That's right. That's
Number
right.
one, a person's path is their path. I'm not vested in whether they drink or not drink. But are you okay today? If you're not, let's talk. I could probably help you with some perspective shifts, get to a place where you're okay. And if that helps you to go about your day making better choices, then I feel amazing. And my work is done. And I'm good. Meet again. You want to go further? You want to know how not to drink? I can teach you my crazy way, or I can show you other ways that are also conventional. And if you don't want to take my way, there's no judgment from me, because I'm not vested in any of the personal outcomes of this. I'm just here to show up and be of service. That's it.
Yep.
But that story, though, I can't believe
I get a lot of flack
awful.
in the
Horrible.
in the
Well, send me my way.
traditional recovery world.
No one
space.
ever gives me any flack, and I'm on the controversial
I'll
edge
send
of
you some. I'll send you some.
all of it. Bring it on. I'm ready.
Are you on TikTok? You want flat? Go on TikTok.
I'm gearing up. That's actually next. I've known that I needed to do that, but I wasn't in the space fortitude wise. I've been in a really raw place these last few years of learning who I am without my big swagger. I'm a big badass butch identity. That's not who I am anymore. So trying to rebuild from that and rediscover and relearn. So I'm in a more solid place of myself that way. So TikTok, I think I could definitely deal with. Yeah.
I think you would love it there
I
because
don't know how to make the things though. I don't
no, you
understand the
don't have to make any dance video. Like that is all of the past. Like I just show up and talk about managing cravings, or this morning I said, here's a mantra you could say in the morning to cultivate self-love.
how much time? How much time do you have? Like
30,
what's the
I mean, you can do 30 seconds or 3 minutes.
okay.
But oh, it would be so good for you there because
Yeah.
especially I think just last month Canada opened their restrictions on MDMA therapy and so I always mess up mushroom
Yeah.
therapy.
I think Australia just did a couple days ago also.
Yeah. So with
Yeah.
TikTok being a global platform,
Yeah.
you can teach. You need to go on it.
Okay. Maybe
And
I might
you'll get flack too, but that's
I
okay.
might I might need to lean on you for like a little tutelage or a little guidance for
Please,
TikTok. I'm like a total
anytime.
noob. I'm like a
We'll
total like
we'll plan
100%.
another Zoom call.
I like it. I love it. What can I say closing? How can I close this for you? Like what would you like?
I want people to know how to get a hold of you and where to
Okay.
find you and how to connect.
Okay. Awesome. You can find me on Facebook. I've got two pages. My main page is just my personal page. That one has a lot more information, a lot more videos, a lot more just posts about the work that I do, about personal interactions with clients. My own personal business page on Facebook is fairly new. That's Michou Olivera Psychedelic Guidance. And that is a page that is definitely in its infancy, but I am contributing to that also. I am on Instagram with Michou413 as a handle there. I have a website, which is my first and last name, michouolivera.com. And you can also put my name, ironically enough, into Google search and come up with a ton of cool articles. I think there's an article from the Boston Globe there from a couple years ago. Harvard Crimson did a podcast on me, a few other podcasts from a few other people, articles from various places, and just a lot of various psychedelic contributions. So welcome to reach out there. You're also welcome to email me directly at michouolivera@gmail.com. I do have sliding scale. So $0 to $150 is my rate. If you have no funds, let's talk. I'll still talk to you. It doesn't matter to me that way. I'm here for everybody. So it all comes back around. So yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And all of your different ways of getting in touch, I'm going to put in the show notes. So even if you are driving, you couldn't grab a pen, everything will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
So in closing, I just want to thank you so much for so many things, but for number one, becoming someone influential and welcoming and loving in my life 2 years ago when I really needed a good friend. And you showed
Absolutely.
up then and you've
Yeah.
showed up ever since.
Well, I'm super proud of you for taking your path and for creating what you've created, and your drive and your heart and your passion for this is really beautiful to witness from the outside. And I'm happy to show up for you anytime. And please, if you have questions about all this, you're welcome to reach out. If you have people, clients that you work with, I take referrals from psychologists, doctors, psychiatrists all around New England. I take people virtually. I'm actually going to be in California in a couple of months. I'm going to be helping my mom move. She's packing up her house in Grass Valley and moving with my wife and I here in Massachusetts. So I will be in California. I'm
We
taking
need
a
to make sure. I want to meet Melissa too.
yeah. I'm guiding journeys across the country, so I'm happy to make time to connect and meet with you. I am going to be in Oakland, so I
It's
would
like
love to
30
connect.
minutes for me.
Yeah, I'm going to be on
Love
the
it.
80. So I'll be on the
Okay.
80. I'd love to connect with you. And people, if you have people that are doing podcasts of their own or people that are looking for speakers, I'm definitely somebody who has a lot of passion in advocating this medicine and speaking to my experience. So I am welcoming any person to ask me for any type of showing up on their podcasts or interviews or any type of referrals or things like that. Please put my name out there. I'm here for everybody.
I will.
See, yeah.
100%.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it was really catch up with
My pleasure.
out
I'll
of you.
chat with you later. Love you.
Have a great
Bye.
day.
You
Bye for
too.
now.